Everyone for joining this webinar. Today's session is from sampling to signals, the AI-powered future of internal audit. We are going to discuss few things on how AI is changing the way internal audit is being done. What's the current practice and what's going to be the future of internal audit based on AI? We will discuss those things in detail. But first of all, a quick introduction from our side. Rashi, could you project the slides? I could not see the slide. So with you today, we have 4 people who would be speaking on the topic. I have Mr. Fanendra Kiran, Head Operational and Technical Risk and Audit from Engineers Office UAE. I also have Vaibhav Javeria, who's the Group Director Audit for Gusson About Holdings. Myself from Nangia Global, and I also have Kapil Soni, co-founder from Intel Quant AI. So all of us would be discussing on the topic and you would be hearing it from us. Moving on to the contents of today's session. The content which we have thought of was more of discussing the practical case studies on how internal audit practitioners are using the AI model to increase the efficiency. Rashi, if you could go to the next slide. Seems there is some technical problem. But anyways, I'll just briefly highlight. We wanted to discuss about the shift from the current ways of doing internal audit to an AI-powered future of internal audit. We will be talking of how AI changes the risk management and internal audit in near future. We would also like to talk briefly on what are the current AI tools which are used by the internal auditors and how can we get there. We will be also talking on how AI and ML analytics bridges the gap in the enterprise risk evaluation. Then, as I said, we will be talking more on the use case studies on how some of these tools are being used to enhance the efficiency of the audits, to bring in more proactive risk monitoring and stuff like that. And finally, we'll be also briefly speaking on how are we going to make this AI work for internal audit, because all of us are maybe, we know that what is AI going to be, but many of us don't know how do we start using AI. So we'll be talking more on that as well. So I think to start with and to begin with, I would just like to focus on this specific slide, which talks on the new values for the audit leaders and the shift. But before we go into that, I wanted to share my thoughts on how internal audit has been progressed in last few years and what's going to be the future. So not long back, it was thought internal audit was a post-mortem exercise, and it was meant more to see whether company is legally compliant, whether policies, procedures are followed, and that's it. Now, but with change of times, we are seeing more and more importance of internal audit function. If we see even now in organizations, most of the department heads work in silos. Probably internal audit is one function that looks across the organization and is in a position to support management and give inputs to management for the decision making, planning, and other things. And because of this reason, I think it's very important that internal audit function is time enabled and equipped with latest tools and technologies to perform at a level which they are expected. I feel that future is not far when these technologies would play a very key role in risk management and internal audit. And it can be as good as in next 1 or 2 years, we are going to see the shift. If we don't adopt these technologies now, probably risk management internal audit practitioners would be having a high chance of losing its relevance, and hence organizations need to start adopting to these new way of working of conducting the internal audits with the use of AI-based tools. If I talk of how the internal audit is going to be next few years, I think that the way internal audit is operated would fundamentally change. Everybody is now talking of agentic AI. We will probably not have one autonomous AI doing it all, but maybe instead of that, what we'll have is a core AI that knows your enterprise policies, knows your processes, knows your risks, We can think of this as a generalist expert on all things related to your enterprise, right? And what that will combine with is a sort of small language models that are specialist at certain things. Example, a small language model which would be specialist at evaluating third-party contracts. Similarly, another small language model which would be expert at evaluating BCP, your business continuity program, and so on. And essentially, the methodology on internal audit will include library of prompts and sort of AI tools calling that when you are in certain part of say planning process or risk assessment, certain agents come back and give you sort of, here's the key outliers, here's the key risks, here's the key themes, and here are the key trends that we want to go and evaluate. And auditor's job then becomes instead of collecting all these data points and doing stakeholder interviews, it becomes more of investigating and opining on based on these data points. Where do we think the risks are? Where do we think our controls are in terms of mitigating those risks? So I guess that would be a pretty big change from where we are from now. And that's what my thoughts are on this. And I also have Weber who would like to talk specifically on this shift. So Weber, would you want to share your thoughts?
Sure. Thank you, Pankaj. And you have very, in comprehensive and a detailed form covered the shifts happening from in traditional internal audit practices to the AI-based internal audit practices. Just to introduce myself, I am a group director audit in Ghassan Abood Group, and we are a conglomerate into various industries, be it from trading to healthcare to hospitality. So, I mean, I have seen, and throughout my career, I have worked into mostly into the conglomerate side of the businesses, and I have seen how the audit has the whole paradigm of audit has shifted from the traditional way of doing audits, what we used to do back, 20 years back with some of the large manufacturing conglomerates to now, into the AI-based environments. So, I mean, as rightly covered by Pankaj, that the shift has been from the retrospective audits to more predictive audits, and that is where the AI helps. I mean, today the board and the audit committees doesn't want to know that what exactly has gone wrong, but they want to know what is about to go wrong and how it can be corrected. So that is the shift of the whole internal audit expectation has changed, and that's very important for the audit internal audit fraternity to now develop themselves to identify what probably can go wrong, and that is where the AI and the tools based on AI can actually help the internal audit fellows to identify how to meet the expectations of the board. Now, what we used to do in the traditional audit, we used to take some samples, probably based on some of the understanding of the risk. But that is where the AI helps, where you can do 100% coverage of your transactions. There is no need for someone to, do the sample checkings. Then probably you can do a real-time detections. So now, it's not based on that, okay, when the audit will come, internal audit team will come based on their audit plan, identify what, what are the gaps. But now with AI, it's all real time. Once you start using the programmings and the AI tools, it's on a real time basis. It can throw the exceptions to you as an internal auditor, and then you can start working on identifying what are the corrective measures to be taken. So now focus will go on more on how we can correct the situation rather than how and what we need to find out. Another important thing is, the audit team. What we used to do, we used to earlier focus on data collection. There was a lot of dependency on the business to take what data is required, how that data will come. And now, after that, the shift has moved slowly and gradually, and now it's more on judgmental, that you have all the data available, you have all the exceptions available. Now, internal auditors has to contribute in interpreting those gaps and give their recommendations in form of a judgments to the board and the audit committees. So the expectations of the audit committee has also changed over a period of time. Before, in internal audit, what we used to do maybe a decade or 2 decades back, more of the audits was based on the interviews, or doing some sample checks, or institutionalizing some the data verification before going for an audit. But with AI, I think the role of the auditor has also changed a lot, and it has actually helped the auditors to be more work more on behavioral analytics. How a particular pattern needs to be analyzed and interpreted. What are the anomalies in the transactions? How the transactions can go probably wrong. Uh, and it also helps in detecting the outliers, because I mean, if you go and do 15,000 vendors are there on your vendor master, you cannot go and check each vendor. But with AI, probably you can identify which are your outliers in those 15,000 vendors listed on board. Plus, it also helps in automatically documenting the things. So there are a lot of AI tools, audit tools, which actually helps you in documenting all your findings and then do a consecutive follow-ups on that. So I think, Pankaj, I mean, the shift has not only helped and supported the internal auditors, but they had also forced the internal auditors to think differently, be more kind of a predictive than reactive. So I mean, that's my thought on this topic.
Thanks, Vaibhav. Those are very real insights, and I totally agree. From reactive to productive is the key to manage risks. Moving on, I just wanted to touch base on some of the tools which are currently being used by the internal auditors, and you can see they can be bucketed in four different types. One is on the data analytics and visualization. Another is on the documentation and reporting. One can be classified under audit management systems with AI, and last one can be workflow automation and RPA. And then there are different tools which are available. Some are of course available for free. Some come with the charges. For example, for your data analytics, generally Power BI, Tableau, Quake, Excel AI is being used. Now, the only thing which one needs to look into is your data security, because all these are mostly open platforms, or at least some of these are open platforms. And whenever you upload your for organizations data, these tools actually use these data to learn by themselves, and hence your organization data may be going out in open domain. So one needs to be very careful on that, and hence we need to look on tools and technologies wherein data is more secured. It's probably in your environment or secured cloud environment, and that's how those tools can be decided and finally analyzed and implemented at organization level. I think we can go forward and we can move how this transition and shift would happen. And for discussing this, I would like to invite Kapil.
Yeah,
Kapil, over to you.
sure. Thanks, Pankaj. Thanks, Weber, for setting up the tone and giving a kind of vision that how the AI-powered internal audit can be done. But the point is that how should we get it there? Because we deal with enterprise mostly, and enterprise do have chaotic data. Now, from messy data to get a real signal of risk, that is something is very important and which we need to really work on, because that's where the AI conversation die, because we deal with those chaotic data and we don't get something what we really want to achieve, and hence the discussion faded away. Now, let me tell you one important perspective here by a storytelling. Imagine that you are working for an organization and as an auditor for organization which is into massive warehouse operations. And in that massive warehouse operation, you have transactions happening across system. On one side, you have PDF document, contents, invoices, and all those things. On one side, you may have approvals or strategic decisions happening. And outside the warehouse, you may have external world where all the commodities for which this warehouse is dealing, having a commodity index and prices fluctuating, vendors are in competition, or regulatory requirements are there. With all those things, you as an auditor enter into the warehouse with a TOSH or checklist and would like to do a kind of review. And honestly, you pick up the racks, that which rack I have to pick up from manual sample point of view, and you open up the boxes, you take some invoices, you say that, okay, this is my sample, and you start reviewing. But inside you, you have a fear that I have done my assessment, but is it complete? Is it comprehensive? By the time I'm presenting the report to the management, does it cover everything what is supposed to be covered? And that's where, just imagine if you're powered with technology like CCTV camera, motion sensor, temperature sensor, kind of alert on the price fluctuation. And then you have something ICR, OCR, which captures the images and digitize them. And on that, you have a layer of data element, which is again analyzed through a pattern path. The entire paradigm shifts because then you are more capable, empowered to understand what's going on, and then you can do the entire analysis of that area. And that's exactly the requirement which we are talking about. These are the technology which turns the capabilities into a manner where it helps auditor to take a different angle of doing the audit. So when we talk about these elements like EDAs or pattern analysis, this talks about, as an auditor, when you know something that price range is kind of this, certain rules you have defined, certain parameters you have defined, so you know what's going on. But when you have power of AI element, you understand the patterns, you see the exceptions are coming. If it's one of the exception, you can sense it's a noise. But if these exceptions are getting repeated, then it starts giving the signals. So that's where you start connecting the dot and you implement all those technology which covers fraud indicative models or radar of statistical models or machine learning models, bringing all together at one place, make your platform as a kind of technology agnostic to cover the entire insights. Because it's not a button of AI that you switch on a button and then you say that tomorrow onwards I'm having entire AI enabled audit. It is a progressive step. It's the stages where you go step by step, covering all these components in one place, so that you can see the entire visibility of what's going on. So I think this is the founding step, how to have AI enabled solution, because chaotic data will remain chaotic data until you have a technique or mechanism to convert into a readable data, which is important for the analysis point of view. Rashi, can you go to the next slide, please? Yeah, now this is very important. One part is that you understand how, now you have set up the platform, understanding how the exceptions are coming. But all exceptions are really giving you the risk signal? Answer could be no. And that's the reason why we have to structure with the fundamentals. Fundamentals will always remain because IT has always been an enabling tool or technique. But your fundamental domain as a professional, it is always our Bible to refer the risk and control metrics, the risk register, risk universe, everything. Let me take another case study. Assume that you are the captain of a big ship which is sailing through a busy ocean. Now, in that ocean, as a captain, you are getting multiple signals. You are getting a signals that wavelength is high, temperature is building up, another ship is approaching us, and like that way, fuel pressure is maybe building up. All those are the signals which is keep buzzing here and there. But as a captain, you may not like to listen all those signals because you would focus those signals first, where it could sink your ship, or you will find out some signals where it could you say that I can wait for some time because it is not that important to handle right now. And some signals you will feel that it's really noisy, I can really take away from that, I do need to focus on that. So that's exactly the role of auditor here. That's exactly management expect from us, that all exceptions which are coming from AI enabled solution may not be the exception to present to the management or deal with. It is very important to understand how these are getting covered and how these are mapped to my entire architecture of it. So like this, my ocean showing all the elements which of risk, which is basically risk universe. You define fraud risk, you define operation risk, you define financial risk, compliance risk. That's my entire way of think, that the storm can come and which storm I have to handle how. Then you define the controls. Like for a ship, you have safety controls. For an organization, you have defined the controls. But to understand whether controls performed well or not, whether those things are managed the way it was expected to manage, that's where you need to connect the data part, analytical part, and see the effectiveness of control. Then another angle come on the risk weightage and control, because not every wave can sink your ship. Some wave could be high, some wave could be low. Like that way, organization may have multiple risks, but all risk you cannot see from one angle that this is all high risk. You have to understand that which risk is of high nature, which risk of medium nature, which risk of low nature, and the probability as well. So when we built up this scenario, we understand the exceptions, what are coming, the outliers, what are coming, is really looked into from meaningful manner. And that's very, very important. Otherwise, the organization may flood it into exceptions and we don't know how to handle those exceptions. Once it is decided, then you start building up the analytical. That is something, the signals what we get, not one sensor we should rely. When we built up a radar, the radar works on multiple senses that, I have messages from X, message from Y, and basis that I can understand the real risk is emerging. That's exactly we define these 5-6 parameters. The process mining, fraud detection, machine learning, and rule-based logic put together gives the comprehensive view, and we are very, very targeted where the real signals are coming, which we really need to address. And then lastly, when you present to the management, you don't present like this way that I noted XXX instances and hence we have some issues. We really need to define a weightage of how much is my risk exposed, what is my residual risk over there, what risk is inherent, and this residual risk is determined by backed up by data analyticals. So in a way, it's a complete connected dots from risk to the control from the data point of view. So when we go to the management and say that we have performed AI enabled internal audit, so we are saying that the risk is mitigated in a very defined logical manner, and this is how it is presented. Rashi, can you go to the next? And that's where nowadays the solutions are building up, the tools are building up. As Pankaj mentioned, that the risk is always there. As are we using OpenAI? Are we following private LLM or whatever? So now with previous slide, we understood how the structure is there, how the element we have defined. Now at the back end, you have all the algorithms. On front end, it should be very easy to navigate. So nowadays, the tools are there where you can connect the data, whatever data you have, you start analyzing it using all these models. Then you get proper insights around it. You get prompt-based questions that what are the key insights coming up. So it works on two powerful engines, the math engine and the narrative engine. The math engine is something on the large number models where all the quantitative analysis happen, like Benford, RSF, isolation forest, random forest, like this. There are so many models work on. And the narrative engine works on the large language model, which does the interpretation of what exactly we have noted. Because again, you cannot just throw exception to the management or to the audit. You have to have understanding of those exceptions, what exactly we are trying to talk about. Rashi, can you go to the next slide? And that's where once it is completely narrated, the audit reports nowadays get generated automatically that with those exceptions, my reports are generated. So the role of auditor is shifted from transactional thing or monotonous thing to a strategic thing, that what is going wrong, what is to be focused more. That's where we need to shift rather than focusing more on combining the data, analyzing the data, and thinking every time a new way that what could go wrong. Whereas machine is working, what you have already fed it, what you are getting additional insights out of it. So yeah, I mean, this is the fundamental layer architecture and how we can use the solutions around. Rashi, can you move to the next slide? So now we have use cases. I would like to invite Kiran to give his view. Is one of the use case where we use process mining and machine learning outliers and how the system identify the key concern area. Yeah, Kiran, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Kapil. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for this opportunity. My name is Kiran Surikuchi, and I'm working as a head in internal audit and risk management in engineering office. So yeah, just I would like to just take one step back. I would like to have just to share a couple of thoughts on this transformation, the shift in the internal audit as a function as to how it was and compared to how it's going now with the evolution of all the technologies. So in a way, if you see, the real transformation is not technological. I believe the real transformation is conceptual. Like the companies now want to look at, they're no longer interested in what went wrong. They want to see what is my vulnerability, what is my risk that I, as a company, that I'm going to face, and what is it that I need to know how internal audit can help me as a management to make better decisions. I think that is the change in the concept in the companies that has in a way resulted in the evolution of the technology to support these conceptual changes, what I believe. And Yeah, so just want to share those thoughts. And coming to this process mining in P2P process, this is one of the cases that we worked on in our company. Our company being expenditure heavy organization, so basically we are not into uh, sales or anything. So we work for the private office of His Highness. So we are more into expenditure heavy sort of transactions. So essentially, the P2P process covers our entire expenditure budget of the company. So we wanted to focus more on this process to identify what are the gaps and how it can improve the process, or how it can make the procurement process and payment process more efficient. And more so because we were at a stage when we have transitioned from a centralized procurement to decentralized procurement to a centralized procurement cycle. And this decision was taken basically by the management to see that they felt that this could help them in terms of increasing the efficiency and streamline the process. But when we did the analysis of process mining of P2P process, uh, how it was before and how it is after the decentralization, we've actually noted that in fact it was even more inefficient than how it was previously. So these are some of the parameters that we have tested and we have shown the management. For example, what is the standard path in a standard procurement, versus what is the actual path that majority of the transactions are taking. So that's when we realized that prior to the transformation, the standard path, majority of the transactions were in the standard path. But subsequently, after the change in decentralization, we saw that majority of transactions are going away from the standard path. So that is one of the metrics that we saw. And also going to the specific procurement, we have noticed that a lot of tenders or contract awards that are going. So we could see that there was a pattern that was happening. So when we analyze the data with the help of AI and the other tools, we could see that there's a rotation of bidders happening, and also we could see that there are a lot of ghost vendors also in place. For example, what I'm trying to say is we've seen a lot of vendors participating, but based on the analysis and the data that it is given, so we could see that majority of these vendors who are always participating are never being awarded. So if you see, the bid to award ratio was very low or even 0% for majority of the vendors. So this was an indication that some of these could be ghost vendors or just being participated in the tenders just to make that, because we have a requirement of having 5 vendors to be participating in a tender. So we could see that majority of these tenders are just maybe for the namesake and just participating, and consistently the bids are also have been always high. So why do you keep inviting those companies when you see that the bids are consistently high than what is your estimate as an internal department? So, and also we've also noticed that a lot of POs which are actually going as per the DOA, but when we saw the pattern that there is a possible split of POs happening just to bypass the threshold. That is also we can see here as an example. So we analyzed all the POs which are happening on a particular day or for the same material or during the same period of time. We took a time period of 4 to 5 days. So we could then see that there are a lot of multiple POs happening on the same week within 2 to 3 days for the same material or a service, but it is split because to bypass the DOA thresholds, because lesser amounts have a lesser authority or approvals required. So these are some of the insights we could really put in front of the management with the help of this data analytics, and that's when we could give them recommendations as to what is required in terms of improving the P2P process, and why the decision of management to decentralize is not going as per the expectations. So this is one of the use case that we have seen in our company, and which really gave a lot of good insights to the management to take a better decision.
Right. Thanks, Kiran, for sharing that. Just to add on how this actually works, basically, now when we see the outcome, and as I mentioned in the previous slides, because management looks forward the filtered thing as an actionable, because to have an actionable, you really need to have more insights in the tool so that you get from that perspective. And more importantly, whether the technology covers comprehensively all those elements. So it looks straightforward as an exception, but on the back end, you have to apply all those models, which covers machine learning models as well, and some of the models like which identify potential duplicate, because there could be situation in the database, you may have similar name, similar structure, clustering, all those information you classify using machine learning models because data is very, very huge. And then you get to know all those insights, you connect the dots, and then the entire presentation comes. For example, when I talk about path creation of 10,000 plus, now it is like connecting my right from inception, the data point to the end data point, understanding how many time I have changing the respective process document, maybe PR, maybe PO, maybe RFQ, whatever. And the moment I change it, the moment I change a particular field, it counts as a separate path. And that's where the path count gets generated, and it gives visibility to the combination, the user, the material, the vendor, the location. And that's where we start getting more information that since somebody has done this, it could be indicating as an inefficiency in the overall process, or somebody is deliberately doing it. Now, both the scenario can come up. Now, from that scenario, the domain knowledge really plays a role. So again, I mean, the important part is that as an auditor, we all are professional. It is always important to have what we feel in the system, what we have experienced in the system, I mean, in our journey. And that's where system starts understanding from that angle that, okay, this is what is more critical, insightful from risk assessment point of view. And that's where the entire information comes at one plate to give the actionable solution around it. Pankaj,
Yeah.
or whether you want to add
Thanks.
anything, otherwise, yeah.
No, thanks, Kapil. I think this is a very effective case study which you've shown. And I think this could have not been possible without the use of technology, because it's simply not
Yes.
possible to correlate, see the patterns and come up with such exceptions. So this is a very unique example of how AI can change the way we audit.
Right, right. Rashi, you can move to the next slide. So I think on audience, we are seeing people are raising questions. We will be having a Q&A round. I think once we complete this, we'll definitely take up the questions after that. Another case study on the revenue leakages. So as we know, for companies which are into FMCG or retail segment, where a lot of expenditure happens on the discount part or incentive part, including pharma companies as well. Now, how are we understanding against the use of data analysis? For example, we may have sales report, we may have customer master, the chargeback, the deductions, all those elements. Now, the important element is how are we connecting that data? One part is that we look in isolation, we look for sales data in isolation, we see some pattern, but we not be able to structure it well. As we mentioned in the previous slide, that you need to have multiple sensors around it to gauge what's going on. So the scenario can come up where somebody is creating duplicate customer. How can you pick it up? From geolocation, from longitude and latitude, you connect the data point there. Then you understand the discounts being passed on to various category of customers. Is there any anomaly, observed in those customer section or not? Then you analyze your demand forecasting basis regression models, time series model, that the market demand should be there, but we are seeing very, very high sale against what we predicted on certain areas. So is it really a real sale or a dummy sales around that? And then when you have all those outlier models, you understand where the pilferage happened, where the discount really passed on to a wrong customer instead of right customer, and you get the complete picture of it. Rashi, can you go on the next slide? Because this is something on the data gathering, what we have done. And this is where the outcome comes. You get an outcome of fictitious customer. You get an outcome that we have sold material to customers who had high probability of bad debts, because the past data pattern showed that customer with this segment, with this scenario, has a tendency to give delayed payment. And the average of those payment could be X amount, and all of a sudden we have done sale more than that. And as a result, we are in a situation of potential bad debts around. Then we get a situation that underlying transaction, which is important for claiming the discounts like chargeback or rebate, but that underlying document has not even done. I mean, secondary sale has not been performed or performed to a different customer combination, but we are still claiming those patterns. So in a way, this again a very, very interesting use case, especially sales side, where there are a lot of combinations are there. As I mentioned, customer master, discount, sales, incentives. When we connect all those dots together and we start analyzing the data, we get to know more outliers and anomalies at transaction level, which help us to understand where the actual money is getting lost. Pankaj would like to add anything on this, with this use case? Pankaj Weber.
Yeah, no, so rightly said, Kapil. I think, as you rightly pointed out, things like collusion, things like chances of bad debts and all is something which we seldomly, find out in internal audit in a manual way. This again
Right.
requires a lot of, use of technology, already those predefined scripts which run at the back end, which can throw up live alerts, live signals so that it gets caught in the right time and the company is saved. So this is essentially something very, very important.
Right. Rashi, you can move to the next slide, the third use case. Now, this is very interesting. Now, today, and the risk is much higher in today's environment because a lot of open AI helps generating the fake images as well. So, be it employee expense claim, be it marketing claim, or be it vendor claim, we may see a situation that we get some kind of images which is generated by these tools, and those are being claimed. Now, one of the interesting case we noted that one of the organization who had to pass claims on various marketing campaigns, and those were evidenced by various pictures that these are the pictures of evidences, and as a result we are submitting the claim should be passed on. Now, with the help of machine learning, only you can think of that angle. Otherwise, a claim which has submitted in the month of March, and the same picture if comes to us in the month of July and then September, again and again, I mean, no human process can understand that I have seen this image until you have a photographic memory that I have seen this image and this image is looking duplicate to me. Now, with the help of machine learning techniques, you can really digitize that part using vector, pixels, and all those components. And then system understands that what are these images coming duplicate. You might have taken from different angles, but it will say that this the entire the underlying data talks to me that, and it says that it is a duplicate. 95% resemblance is there, and these cases then you take up. Rashi, can you go to the next slide because there the images are coming, and then these cases you take up and say that this is where the duplicate transactions are coming, and vendors are submitting the claim multiple times for the same transaction what they have done. Now, this is a classic case of ICR technology and digitizing that, and then using machine learning pattern to understand the resemblance of those images. And this can be used even for employee expense claim. If we have any false claim, somebody generates a false claim, we can catch hold from that angle that also that this is really a real transaction or transaction generated by any system, and catch hold those anomalies around that. So like these are the cases where you can start working on it. Basically, it's not something where on day one you say that my entire risk universe is automated and AI enabled. It is something, a journey we need to start. You start using case by case. There are various cases, as we know, we are all professional. The risk and control metrics suggest approx 300 to 400 risks by and large. Now, from all those 300 to 400 risks, we need to identify where the challenges are most and start using or start building up those cases accordingly. And then it's a journey to completely revamp or transition from manual based audit or traditional way audit to a IA enabled audit. So, I mean, we wanted to take a couple of cases which can give the insights about how technology is really helping out in terms of what management is expecting and what, as an auditor, we should look for. Rashi, can you go
Thanks,
to the next
Kapil. I
slide?
think very rightly pointed out some of these case studies, and the number of case studies can go on and on. These are just examples which you may have taken. And I
Right.
feel that, now using AI in internal audits not an option. It has to be done. As we are
Right.
moving towards the complete AI world, I see that in next maybe 2 years, 3 years, the way, as I said, it's being done, it will completely change. You need to focus
Right.
on very, very specific things rather than worrying about a lot of things which would be taken care of by AI itself.
Right.
So now is the time to start thinking on, having an AI journey in the internal audit, implement some sort of tools, see how it works for you, because as you rightly said, it's a journey, and people need to initiate this journey as soon as possible.
Right. Right. One of the important element is that the fear is there that will AI replace auditors? So I mean, it's my view, and happy to have a debate on that. See, technology will never replace the professionals. I think it would be a shift of thought process or effort or mindset from X to Y. So the entire focus would be on the strategic thing, the way businesses are happening, because the way business used to happen earlier, now the way business happens now is a complete transformation. Business also uses AI technology to make it more expandable. As a result, we have more complexity, more application, more different data source. Are we equipped? Are we empowered enough to analyze those? That's the entire challenge what we have. And it cannot be handled the way we used to handle earlier. We have to adopt the technology only, and that's something is important to really, or I would say an eye opener to get into that shoe. Otherwise, the way we have been doing will not be able to catch up the way business is moving ahead of the time. That's what I mean in my view, and happy to have others' view as well on this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just
I
to
would
add to
request.
that, Kapil,
Yeah, yeah, Vibhu, please. Yes.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I just want to add one thing here. Because a lot of internal audit, the professionals are on this forum right now. That AI will not actually replace the internal audit, but the internal auditors who use the AI will replace those who don't use the AI. So
Yeah,
now it's
that's
the
right.
time which has come. Basically the future of audit is not about the fewer auditors. It's all about that how auditors are intelligently using the systems and replacing the traditional way of working.
True.
And that's, I think, one of the very important points which is mentioned in this slide is skill gaps within audit teams. That needs to be fixed through upskills, maybe trainings, whatever is required, from the organization side, because that's really going to be the key. And the change of mindset from, you starting using AI in the internal audit is again a key.
Right. Kiran, you were saying something, I think. Yeah, maybe then
Kiran,
we can have.
okay. Yeah, I think in the interest of time, Kapil,
Yeah,
we
yeah,
should
we can have
take forward few
questions.
questions.
Absolutely. Right, right.
See.
Yeah, I think we can have questions now.
If you all have any questions, you can just post it in the Q&A section, and we would be happy to pick it up from there. I could see a couple of hand raises, but it would be great if someone just can put the questions.
Yeah, I think Vinayak, you have any question, you can speak up or maybe put on the Q&A.
I think one of the comments saying Q&A tab isn't activated. Saurabh, can you just please check this? I think it should be activated, but if not, you can quickly check this.
So I activated the chat app and Q&A app also.
I think
Okay.
it's not activated. I got a message, but I think if it's not activated, people can ask question by raising hand also. That's not an issue, I think.
yeah,
I think one of
this
the
is
question
question.
is, can this be customized to hotel industry?
Yeah,
No,
definitely. See, can I answer this?
Yes.
And then I think
Yeah.
Vaibhav can add on further. So these technologies are industry agnostic. Wherever we are working, see, ultimately, we have data, we have risk, we have control, we have business. So solution can be deployable at any place. We need to understand where the risks are, where the data points are, and these data are, I mean, these technology or these models are working on your own data to understand the anomalies of it. So it's a combination, as we discussed. It's a combination of process mining, it's a combination of statistical models, machine learning models, fraud detection models, and rule-based models. So the rule-based model is industry specific, but these four models learns from your own data itself to say that where the anomalies or abnormalities are coming.
Sure.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Please explain how does this fits in digital transformation? The question from Hemant.
Okay. Now, digital transformation is something, it has been there for a long time. What we're talking about is identifying the real risk signals, which is important from audit management or audit assessment point of view. Now, digitization part is something, whatever you are having in a multiple transactional data, you are converting into a very dashboard, which is there, which has been there for a long time from finance point of view or from audit management as a life cycle point of view, that how many audits you have done, how many audits are open and all those things. But the real test is that the transactions what we are reviewing, the multiple transactions that what we are doing, are we getting right signals from there? And those signals you get first from this heavy load algorithms, which identify the problems. And then, of course, digitalization is a layer on it that which gives a complete picture that vendor-wise, customer-wise, material-wise, where the problems are coming. So digitization is a last leg. The important thing is to understand where the problem is from diving the ocean. Really identifying the area of concern from the ocean.
Sure, I think, yeah, that answers. Then we have a question from Amit. He's saying, are these cases of automation or AI? As I can see, many of them can be automated by using Python coding with the help of Claude or Gemini.
Yeah, so
Couple you'd like to
definitely,
answer.
absolutely. So technology, you can use Python, you can use Gemini or ChatGPT. They can give you code, but again, they give you code on Python. Now you can do it from that perspective, but someone really need to ensure that these codes, these algorithms are really giving you the insights what you're expected. So it's like having a black box reliance on what codes are generated by these tools, or you are really testing it. That's the entire difference. So as an auditor also, it's a responsibility because business would be using those algorithms to perform their business. So now the audit risk area also updating from that angle, that are you covering in your audit scope how the algorithms are built up and how the algorithms are giving the results as expected by the business in a right sense. Because over a period of time, what would happen? It becomes a black box the way it used to be when an ERP environment we get into it. So it is important what algorithm we have built up. Is that algorithm giving the right thing? Have we done the complete penetration testing of it, and is meeting the expectation or not? But to give you the answer, the entire technology base remains Python because on Python we use all those things, and then definitely the AI element of Gen AI, LLM, LNM, on all those models, because these are so Python is a fundamental layer, and on top of it, all those things are built up. So it's a complete stack. That's how we have to do it, and it requires combination of functional knowledge and tech knowledge. Otherwise, if you just copy it from that, it may give you varied result, and you have to keep trying, and trying. And it depends upon how many times you want to do the research.
Sure. We have a question from Aditya. Maybe I'll take this one. He
Yeah.
says many companies embed AI into their core processes to prevent errors and improve efficiency. What should be the evolving role of internal audit? Should internal audit focus on auditing the AI systems themselves? I would rather say that if AI has been implemented into the core processes to prevent errors and improve efficiency, then first of all, we should just look at is it really happening? Is the output really supporting the objective which you had set? And if it's not, then you need to again just look at the rules what you have set. Is what my thought process would be. Anything you want to add, Kapil?
No, absolutely. See, ultimately, what happens as an assurance provider, we have to give assurance. Now, we had seen the era of SAP implementation long back, Oracle SAP, and which covers most of the controls from preventive point of view. But does the responsibility auditor went away? No. The responsibility again enhanced or added on that check whether all these ERPs are functioning appropriately or not from ITAC perspective, ITGC perspective. The same way, business will do the business as an independent review. Auditor has to give the independence view basis their own way of testing. So we need to upgrade ourselves to really get into those understanding of those algorithms, that how these algorithms are working. If they are saying controls are taken care by using this algorithm, review those algorithms.
Yeah, absolutely.
I
In
see
fact,
one
couple of
interesting question.
yeah.
Yeah. I see one interesting question. I would like to take this up, and of course, I want Pankaj and Kapil and Navav also to pitch in. So this question is from Bhuthana Ismail Al Tamimi. She asked, just like auditors are using AI, other business functions are too using. So for example, vendor and transactions monitoring, case procurement is using, and finance is using adopted AI. So how do we ensure that the use of AI and also the continuous auditing does not duplicate the first and second line of defense monitoring? So this is a good question, actually. See, it's not that only internal audit function is using AI nowadays. We have seen a lot of functions like procurement, finance also using internal audit for their own assessment. It doesn't we should not see that as a duplication of
Yeah.
auditing or monitoring. So audit or a risk management as a second and third line of defense is always an independent function to the business. So even though the business is using, I think there's no harm in internal audit also taking up the usage of AI, and it only adds an extra layer of assurance. Yeah. So
Absolutely,
open to
yeah.
Pankaj and Kapil. Yeah.
No, I think that's the right way, which I mentioned just before that as well, because our role is always independent review. So it should not be seen as a duplicate effort. It's an assurance that things are fine, what we have expected. Right.
Yeah, sure. I think one of the other important questions, a couple of, in fact, to them, if the AI is cloud-based, how do we ensure that sensitive data is not compromised?
So the important element here is if it's cloud-based, what kind of security protocol and third-party arrangement and risk assessment we have carried out. And of course, those security assessments, the standard ISO, SOC 2 reporting, and all those things are in place with those reputed cloud service provider. And if suppose there is a concern about use of LLM or Gen AI thing by using ChatGPT and all those things, yes, there are risks because the data is going out and to what level that these things are secured. And that's the reason why private LLM plays a vital role. And enterprises are moving towards private LLM, that we are talking about our environment, we are learning from our environment, and we are using that Gen AI code, and restricted that data is within our premises. So yes, it depends upon the risk appetite, the internal company policy. Definitely the security protocols are always there, those cloud service provider or enterprise version what they give. But of course, to deploy on premise, the private LLM is a solution which ensure things are absolutely safe within the environment and things are there. And of course, on top of it, how the internal IT security is structured, that is also very important, because nowhere, if my internal IT is weak, whether you deploy on premise or you rely on third party, your data is exposed to. So it's the complete security assessment how we carry out. But yes, solutions are there, options are there.
Right. We have a question from Vittal. He says, does the AI and ML will help to identify which segment of business life cycle needs to go in-depth audit? Or do we need to identify a particular segment of business life cycle manually for thorough internal audit, after which AI and ML will help in internal audit?
Sorry, come again. I couldn't hear it
Does
properly.
the AI and ML will help to identify which segment of business life cycle needs to go in depth audit? I think we discussed this.
Right. Risk-based scenario. So risk-based auditing now happens through AI and ML models. So what happens? My data is connected to the risk and control, and against that control, we have sub-process and process. So now the risk-based audit happens through seeing the transactions at ground level, understand using all these models. The more the anomalies, the more the abnormal transactions or patterns coming up, the more is the risky of that nature. And then we have weightage of respective risk and control, which determines the score that this risk and control give me higher concern. That means it is of high risk. We need to plan it, and that way it's completely backed up. So earlier we used to have a top-down approach. Now we can set up a bottom-up approach where the entire controls attack to data, and data is analyzed through all these 5 spectrum which we talk about, and give you the entire visibility on the scoring part.
Absolutely. Then there's a relevant question from Kajal. I would take this probably. She has asked, if AI can review 100% of transactions, how should internal audit change its approach compared to traditional sampling? So here I would say that we need to focus on the controls, whatever analysis is being done by the AI and the exceptions highlighted. Basis those exceptions, we should see whether the controls are working fine or not, and then focus should be on how to tighten those controls. That should be the change in approach. Kapil, you want to add?
I mean, just to add, Pankaj, to this, basically, when we start using AI, the sample checking methodology actually gets, completely transformed into 100% data verification using the machine language and AI. So ML and AI will basically, supersede the traditional way of sample checking. So the whole methodology will change.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
right.
Right. I think one of the
Then,
question was that can we use all these Monte Carlo simulation Bayesian model? Yes, so we these models are important. The way you simulate the risk pattern, the way you see the outlier from this probability density function or Bayesian model, you get to know where the extreme things are coming up. Maybe it's on a favorable side, on adverse side. Both need to look into it in a holistic way. So if I answer your question, yes, all these models are built up nowadays to give you the scenarios. So the more you get a scenario, you understand where the risk lies more.
There is another question here, that when will be the ROI come if AI implemented, right? Something. So I would
yeah,
like to highlight, I mean, and this is a live example even in my professional career when, when we proposed to the management and in the boardroom and audit committee, the question came that, okay, what about the ROI? I mean, first of all, the boardrooms and the audit committees needs to understand that these are some of the areas where ROI cannot be expected in a very short span of time. These are long-term investments in the interest of identifying the right risk for the organization. That's number one. Number two is that it's going to improve the efficiencies within the internal audit team and enhance the business processes. Number three, which is very important, that this will help the implementation of ML and AI will help the organizations in real-time monitoring. So once you start the real-time monitoring, you can avoid a lot of the penalties, whether in your tax assessments, you can avoid a lot of, a major scope of the frauds happening within the organizations can be at least identified at a much faster pace and an early stage rather than at a later stage. So, the ROI has to be calculated keeping all these things in mind rather than taking a pure monetary calculation based on number of years or whatever method we use.
Yeah, and also this qualitative, the ROI also has to be looked into qualitative aspect. It can be quantified in all the aspects. So as Iva mentioned, we have to give the qualitative aspect of the ROI by applying the ML and AI
Right.
models. Yeah.
Right. And just
yeah.
to
I
add
mean,
on further, sorry, Pankaj, you want to say something?
please, no, please go
Yeah.
ahead.
So just to add on further, see, definitely when we use AI, there are two elements as Weber and Kiran mentioned, qualitative and the overall comprehensive view. Important element is that the audit cost goes significantly down because my effort on data analysis, my effort on cleansing the entire data, is taken care by the machines, by the system, and connecting the entire scenario, generating the audit report. All those elements which used to take 40, 50, 60% of time is taken by the system, machines. Now, when we have that much time available, we can complete much higher audit in a year. Number one, so our coverage can be more in terms of the entire organization level. Number two, which itself give you the ROI in the year one itself. And secondly, when we have qualitative analysis, which is not possible through the manual spreadsheets and all, then you have additional insights in terms of the value generation during your audit. Because one of the question always asked to an auditor that, okay, from audit committee point of view, from risk assessment point of view, you have taken care entire thing, but what value are you generating? Are you generating real value, highlighting insights where business is leaking money, and you are giving some more insights around that? So that's where it adds on giving the right value to the management. Yeah, Pankaj, you were saying something, you can add on. Right?
No, I think Kapil, you rightly mentioned, and you've answered this quite well. I think there are a lot of other questions, and in the interest of time, we may just take one last question. And what we will do is we will reach back to the respective person who is who have questions which has been unanswered, and probably will try to discuss and resolve one-on-one.
Sure.
So Kapil, last question which I see relevant, which we can take is how to overcome the challenge of inconsistent data quality when implementing continuous monitoring and AI analytical tools. This has been asked by Sarah Ahmed.
Good question. So data inconsistency has always been a challenge over decades, right? what happens when we start connecting with machine learning models, it has capability to does the cleansing at one level on its own. So it classify, it cluster, it formats, it structure the data on its own. And as it progresses further and further, it learns further and further. So over a period of time, so you can't control the raw data, what you are getting. What you can control is the raw data, what is getting through a pipeline to your structure. We have capabilities to convert in a readable format what we are looking for. And that's how it starts giving the results.
Yeah, absolutely sure. So I think, as I said, for the rest of the questions, we'll get back individually to all of you. I thank all of you for joining this webinar. We will keep conducting such webinars in future also and reach out to you. And for sure, the people who have not got their answers, we'll reach out to you individually. Thanks for joining this webinar. I thank all my speakers, including Kapil, Vaibhav, and Fanindra. Thanks for joining this. Have a nice weekend and a nice day ahead.
Sure. Thanks.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.